I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to document the making of one of my Sichuan dishes. Not my recipes, from slightly modified from Dunlap, however you pronounce her name, the English-speaking Sichuan Cooking Institute, whatever the name of it is, graduate that wrote the kind of the definitive work, English work on Sichuan cooking. It's red cooked beef. It's a nice one because it's really quite simple. It takes a little while because it's a slow cook, but there's very little prep, and once you're done, you just throw it in the pot and wait, and you're good to go. So the ingredients we need for this are anise, Sichuan peppercorn. You can get it at Mala Market. You can also find it on Amazon or various Asian markets. Freshness does matter. This is some of the better stuff I've gotten from the Mala Market. Some cow gao. I might be pronouncing these things totally wrong because I've learned this stuff from reading. So I have no idea how you actually pronounce it, but a couple other names for it. Cow gao, false cardamom, black cardamom, I guess cardamom too. Looks like this. Find it in Asian markets, find it online too. And the reason I started cooking Sichuan is I used to live back in New England, and we had quite a few good Sichuan restaurants out there. If you live in Massachusetts, check out Sichuan Gourmet. Really quite good. They have a couple locations out there. In any case, once I moved to this wet hellhole, can't find Sichuan, so learned to cook it myself. They got the black cardamom, Shaoxing rice wine. You want the stuff without salt. It's a little hard to find the stuff without salt. I found one Chinese restaurant down in Beaverton that I was able to get it at. But Pagoda is kind of the standard brand. This isn't that, but it's the same thing. It works fine. Dark soy sauce. I like Pearl River Bridge, but any dark soy will do. And Dubanjiang. Again, no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. Chili bean paste. I believe it's, I can't remember the bean now off the top of my head. Might be not long bean. I can't remember the type of bean, but it's not soy, surprisingly enough. But this stuff is magic. And you need that for this. Beef stock, some scallion, bit of ginger, Daikon radish, and short rib. So that's it for ingredients. You need oil. And the first thing you want to do is take your short rib and just kind of, I leave it on the bone and I just cut so that when it's cooked, you have chunks of meat rather than big chunk of meat. You have serviceable sizes. So I cut it on the bone into cubes. And then we're going to also blanch it, which I don't technically really know if you need to do. It sounds kind of like superstition to me, but that is the way it's done according to the recipe. So I've been doing it, but you can probably skip it. But I will do that. So I'm going to get some boiling water in a little bit. I got a little ways to go before I actually start cooking this, but I was doing some prep for some other stuff, so I decided to prep this as well. And yep, so those are the ingredients, the initial prep of the meat. And I'll be back when I'm ready to blanch. Back, muted my music because of YouTube. And we got boiling water. So we're gonna blanch our short ribs. Again, I think this step isn't necessary, but it doesn't take that long. It's not that big of a deal. I just do it. That goes in there, and we give it some time. Not too much, a couple minutes. I usually wait for it to come kind of back up to a boil, and at that point I consider it done, so I'll be back in a few. May as well start prepping some veggies while that's happening. So we got our scallions, and you can just kind of rough cut these. It's not one where you really got to spend. One of the things about this dish is you don't have to spend a lot of time cutting. Just rough cut them. A couple pieces each should be fine. I like to do it at an angle, but it doesn't really matter. And these guys go in quite late in the process, so you can actually do that while the other stuff is cooking. You can prep them on the late side. You don't have to do it right up front. Should be good. And the ginger, don't have to peel it for this dish, just kind of crush it. I like to give it a real, I like to just kind of quarter it like that after I crush it, but it doesn't really matter. It's all stewing. And this all goes in at the same time. There's one thing that goes in first, so you don't have to worry about keeping things separate or anything like that. One of these. Don't know if it's necessary, but I like to crush it too. I figure it's gonna get into the food better if it's open. That should do. 1 star anise. Get it out of the jar. There we go. And we got to prep this too, but we'll get back to that in a minute because I like to toast up my peppercorn. I need to get something ready on the stove for that. So it's already looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to consider that blanched. So, pot holders. Granite. I don't like putting hot pans on granite, but I mean on quartz, but as long as I'm not leaving on there, it's okay. Ooh, careful of the steam. This thing's a bit of a mess. Milking stuff still there, but there we go. Short ribs are prepped. Now let's get our wok down and toast up the peppercorn a little bit. We got fire. Teaspoon. I like peppercorn, so I'm usually a little heavy on it, but you don't have to be if you're not as big of a fan. Peppercorn. Some peppercorn. That'll be. It'll do. Toast the sucker up. And with this dish, you can throw them in whole. I like to grind them, but it's not necessary. And get these seeds out when you see them. These are the small kind of peppercorn, so they tend to have a little more of the seeds in them. I know I saw another one in here, but starting to get a little smoke on the pan. Kill the heat and just let the residual heat do the remainder of the toasting for us. They smell nice and good. And that is all we need to walk for this. And you could forgo the toasting process if you want. I like to toast them. And you can also throw them in whole if you want, but I prefer to grind them. I'm just gonna go through and get some of the seeds out. The bigger ones tend to release the seeds easier, so you don't have quite as many seeds in the bigger variety of Sichuan peppercorn. And actually, there's really not that many in this one. This batch that I pulled. Okay. That'd be good. Into my squash grinder. And this will work. The husk can be kind of unpleasantly crunchy, like gritty. So I prefer to put them through a sieve. I'll grind them again, do this probably at least twice. Oh, come on. Good. I think that's most of the goodiness. Get rid of the husks. Anything that kind of the oils cause to stick to the side here. Okay, peppercorn is prepped. Got one more thing to prep. Let that cool while I prep. I won't be quite as hard to put back up. The pan's actually probably cool by now, but the ring under it might still have a little heat in it. Pixian, that's the other thing. You really want to get Dubanjiang from the Pixian region. They're the ones who really know how to make it. I'll throw a link up to this brand, which is kind of the definitive brand for this product. And I use six tablespoons. One dish that uses a lot of this stuff. And there is no substitute for this. You just need this. It'll last pretty much forever in the fridge. It comes in a plastic bag. which is why I have this jar with a label taped to it that I use to store it. It doesn't fit in one, so I have 2 jars with labels. This one I just actually filled, and that's about how much is left just to fill in the first jar. Okay, there we go. 6 tablespoons of the good stuff. And it's got a bunch of chili side pieces and bean in there. So I like to give it a nice mince with my blade, just to make sure everything's nice and it won't hurt if you get some chunks in there, but especially in this, it's gonna stew down anyways, but I like to mince it up. The good stuff. And it's a fermented product. Chili beans and should have looked up the beans and chili, and someone said it, I would know the name of the bean, but I can't. It's not coming to my mind right now. It is one of the essential ingredients for Sichuan. This being the other for almost anything, actually. You can substitute dry sherry, I believe it is, for that, but that's obviously better. But dry sherry is a substitute if you can't find it. Okay. Yeah, I'll be back. I'm going to put away the wok, and we're just about ready to start getting rolling with the cooking. Back, wok is away. I need 4 tablespoons of sherry. Or, sorry, rice wine. Sherry being the potentially possible substitute. And it's not as important with this that everything's ready to go like it is when you're cooking with a wok with high heat, where you really want an assembly line where you can just don't need to do anything but throw ingredients in when it's time. But I still like to do it that way where possible. So this goes in first. First things first. Heat up some oil. Should be good. Very slow flow rate on that. Actually, maybe it's a little more. I normally measure how much I get, but I haven't done it with that one, so I can kind of gauge how many tablespoons I'm putting in based on flow rate. Something like 2 to 4, somewhere around there is what you want. This stuff is magic. Don't want it too hot because you don't want to burn the spice. Great. That wasn't super slick. Fry it in the oil until the oil starts taking on a nice red color. Looking good. Now basically everything else goes in. I like to give the rest of the spices and aromatics just a little bit of time on the heat before I add my liquid. Heat down a bit. Beef broth. I'll turn the heat back up and get this back to a boil. Rice wine. Dark soy. Be careful there. Not an exact science here. Try not to drop your tools in the broth. Okay, bring that up to heat. Nope. Should have put that in, but that's okay. We already toasted it. Peppercorn. And bring that up to a boil. Be back when it's there. Okay, we are back at a boil. Soup. Add your meat. Yeah, it's going to cool off the liquid a little bit, but probably not too much. Especially since these were blanched not too long ago. Yeah, it's already still at a simmer. Now, turn the heat down, cover it. You can do it open too if you want. You'll probably reduce it a little bit, but keep it at a simmer. Make note of time. Somewhere around 2 hours from now. Well, that's not true. From around 2 hours now, the meat will be done. A little bit later, you gotta blanch and add the radish. Depending on how crunchy you want the radish, it's how late in the process you wait. So, be back for that bit. I'll be back now because I'm just gonna go ahead and prep the radish. Looks good to me. Daikon radish. Okay, time for the turnips to get blanched. Yep. The paper towel didn't work out as I planned. Already got our water boiling. Well, and our turnip, or not turnip. I always think of daikon as turnip, but it is a radish. And I'll bring it back to a boil. That's not going to take long, but I'm going to go ahead and pause. It's been blanched, probably a little too long because I kind of forgot about it, but it'll be fine. Go ahead and drain it. Ooh, steam burn. Not too bad though. And throw it in the beef. Get it all down there. Lid back on, and that's that step. Busy getting everything on the table to do any documenting of the final product, but it does allow me to do another thing which is nice about this dish. It heats up quite well. Normally I remove these bones. I missed that one. Oh, I like to do it on the, geez, I missed a couple of them. I like to do it on the stove. So I think you get a better result. But, just load up your pan. That should be enough. Stick it on the heat. And I'll show you the reheated final product. One thing that also wasn't included, because I did it at the end when I was getting on the table, is I tend to take a pair of kitchen scissors, fish out the bones, and cut the meat, because it kind of holds it together with the stuff that's on the bone, which is good to eat, but you gotta cut it. Otherwise you get big chunks of meat that are still attached. So I do that. That makes it more manageable. But I'll turn this back on when this is all ready and I have my rice, and demonstrate the final product. Okay, so got my rice. And you got the finished red cooked beef. I usually serve with both a slotted spoon and a non-slotted spoon, so you can get the juice and you can get the meat without the juice. I'll start with that right there. Ginger here, it's still on the sharp side because I haven't stewed too long, but it is edible. I tend to eat it. You can garnish with a little bit of cilantro if you want. I normally don't, but I will for the case of this. And you have yourself red cooked beef. Good to go.